everyone, how is it going? My name is Pagan-𝗏𝗏 and I am a business coach for authors over at 𝗙𝗶𝗡𝗏𝗏𝗧𝗏. And today I want to talk to you guys about how having support helped me to go full-time in authorship. So I have been writing books and making a living off of writing and my writing related ventures for almost 5 years now. I want to be fully transparent and say that in the first 2 years of me running my business and kind of getting my books off the ground, I wasn't making a whole lot back then, but I had left my day job and I was doing a lot of freelance writing and I was kind of getting by on that, though I wouldn't recommend doing it that way. It wasn't very sustainable. But after that 2-year mark, I did start to generate more money in my business, and last year in 2021 I actually had my first profitable year, and that was a really successful year for me, where all of my income streams that I'd been building over the past 5 years finally started to work together and pay off. So I just wanted to give you that transparency because I really try to be transparent in everything that I teach. So I also just want to mention really quickly that I have a video that I've done before, which is called 5 Reasons I Love Being an Indie Author. And in that video, I talked a lot about my history being traditionally published and how having that publisher helped me, and why I chose to go indie eventually. And you may want to check that out because it kind of goes hand in hand with what I'm talking about in this video. So the first thing that you really have to understand about being in business is that no CEO does everything by themselves. It's just not possible. Like, they don't have enough hours in a day, they don't have enough energy, and really it's how they're going to make the most of their resources, and it's how they're going to be able to show up at their fullest. This doesn't mean that they have a big team. Sometimes it means that they maybe have just an assistant or just a couple of team members helping them, but there's definitely a time and place for you to be getting support in your author business so that you can treat it like a business and so that you can prioritize writing. Because the thing that you have to remember is that you are the only person who can write your books, and it's really important that you are building a business that actually allows you to be writing rather than having to run around and publish and market and handle tech issues and do a million other things. You want to be primarily writing and producing books because that's the only job that you can do. In the beginning of my author brand, I really utilized 2 things. I first got signed with a publisher in high school, but that soon went bankrupt, and I just like to preface that because sometimes people get confused. Because I went on to self-publish an indie book after that, and then I got signed again, and my second book that I released was traditionally published. So just so you have the timeline of events there, that's kind of how that unfolded for me. But from the very start, from the first book that I released, I really made it a priority to automate. I tried to put as much on autopilot that I possibly could think of so that I wasn't having to manually do things such as marketing and publishing. I really tried to kind of take as much off my hands as possible. One, because I just really didn't want to have to do that after being at our day job all day. And I really wanted to prioritize writing too. Like, that was the thing I really wanted to spend time doing. It wasn't that I didn't enjoy marketing. I soon discovered that I love entrepreneurship and I love marketing and I love business. So I don't have a problem marketing, but at the same time, I want it to be easy. I don't want it to be more work. I don't want it to feel like that's my only job. So I built out a lot of email systems that were going to sell books for me. I used a scheduling tool to get my marketing out while I was in a day job. I did a lot of things that just helped me to take things off my hands. And then when I signed with my publisher, my second publisher, that really helped me because they took a lot of stuff off my hands as well. They didn't take a lot of marketing stuff off my hands. That is something that I think is a huge misconception about publishing. A lot of publishers will not do marketing work for you. At the end of the day, I was still the one having to market on social media and run around and get into bookstores myself and having to book my own events. Like, I did all of that. So that was all me. But what they did help me do that just really helped me while I was trying to grow a business and while I was freelancing in the first 2 years and getting my books off the ground was that they took care of the production process of publishing my book for me. And that was huge. So they, essentially the biggest things is that they worked on editing for me. So I had 3 rounds of edits for every book, and that was excellent. I still had to go through and implement the edits, but at least I didn't have to go through and kind of do the edits in the first place. I then had to, they then did cover design for me, and they did formatting for me, and then the only thing I had to do was kind of approve the covers and approve the, and approve the final version that they sent to me so I could kind of go through it for inconsistencies and check that it was all the way I wanted it to be. So that was like a final check, a final proofing that I had to do. It took me about 2 to 3 hours every time. So, I mean, that was a thing I had to do. And then they took care of uploading it to all the distributors so that it was available to buy online, but I still had to get it into physical bookstores. So that was one of the jobs that I did, but at least they got it available to buy. And so that was a huge thing that they took off my hands as well. And they did all the optimization so that it would rank well and all that stuff. And in that process, I feel like I did get a little bit of launch strategy help where they would help me with a cover reveal, and they, for the first book especially, they were really good at getting all these bloggers involved, but I noticed that marketing help seemed to dwell and die down as the years went by, and I think, again, that was just like an issue with how fast they were scaling at the time and trying to keep their marketing department being able to cover all the books that they had. So I noticed cover reveals would get closer and closer with less and less notice, and it would be hard to kind of juggle that kind of marketing and get enough eyeballs on it. But I still had some help in that department, so I just want to acknowledge that that was there. And there was a few other things like that, like reviews and whatnot, that they did help me with, but a lot of it was on me to do that. And I mean, I was doing it anyway for my self-published books, so it wasn't like I didn't have a strategy in place. It wasn't like I didn't have processes in place for that. So I kind of expected to have to do that anyway, so that wasn't really a problem. And so the way that helped me in the beginning is that having someone to take all that off me just allowed me to focus on building my business and writing my books primarily. And that was super helpful for me in the beginning to keep the momentum going, and it's how I've been able to publish so many books in such a short period of time. So just in case you're wondering like how that was possible, if I had not had the publisher behind me, I probably would have only been able to do maybe 1 to 2 books a year. So how it actually happened for me is that my first book, I released it in 2016 and I republished it in 2018 because my first book launch flopped, and then I learned how to launch properly. Then I signed with the publisher in 2017. And I released the book in 2019. So the first book that we released, it had a 2-year launch period where we worked on it for 2 years, and we really warmed it up and built my audience over 2 years. So that was a huge amount of time, and that was really helpful to kind of launch me. And then at the end of 2019, I released a second book, a novella. So at that point, I had 3 books out. And then in 2020, I released another 4 books. And so at that point, I had 7. And then I released a book this year in January. So I released my first book under my secret pen name, so that brought me up to 8. And then this month, actually, at the time of me recording this, I will be releasing my next novella. So that is going to bring me up to 9 books. And then I plan to publish another one this year. So that will bring me up to 10 books. So that's 10 books in the space of about 6 years, right? And as you can see, I kind of got more and more books every year, but my limit is definitely going to be 2 to 3 moving forward. I cannot do more releases than that every year. It's just too much. I have to be more, I have to have more prep time. I have to have manuscripts that I've written a few months before. So I learned my limits there in what I could do back to back versus where I needed more time. And that's one of the reasons I ended up leaving as well, is because it just was getting too much with the deadlines they were expecting of me at that point. But like I said, like that momentum built because we had the launch pad to kind of get me off the ground. And then we had the momentum to follow that, where I was releasing books, they were helping me release books. It was all kind of pulling together really fast. But I still think that I would have been quite successful in releasing 1 to 2 books a year and taking longer. I just acknowledged that it was a benefit to have a publisher behind me to help me do it faster. And so when it comes to you getting support in your author business, I really want you to look at what is the best way for you to do things faster and to have support behind you where you are not having to do all the things, and what is the most cost-friendly option. So another thing that I'll be fully transparent about is that I didn't have as many upfront costs with the majority of my books because my publisher would take care of that stuff for me, where they would do editing and cover design, and I wouldn't have to pay anything upfront. So I have a really hot take on this. I'm actually going to do another video about it, but I've already done a podcast episode about it on the true cost of traditional publishing. And what a lot of people think is that traditional publishing doesn't cost anything. That's actually not true. It's true that you don't pay anything up front. If you end up paying stuff up front, that's a vanity press. Like, yes, we acknowledge that's a thing. But you have to ask yourself, where is all your money going? And so if you watch my previous video, you also hear about the percentages that go on and who actually has a hand in what and who's taking what. And I mentioned that your publisher gets 33% of your royalties, right? And so the thing you have to remember is that if an editor works on your book and they work on it for 3 months, right? They are going to get paid out of your royalties and everyone else's royalties in the publishing house to make their salary so that they can work on books. And that's fine. They should be getting paid for their work. But what about when they're done working on your book? So your royalties are going towards the publisher to make up their income so that they can pay their employees as a whole. They're getting paid from your royalties for as long as your book sells through the publisher. And when you're only making 80 cents per royalty and your publisher is making 33% of your earnings so that everyone else can get paid and everyone else is getting paid over the book's lifetime of 60 years and they've only worked on your book for 3 months of those 60 years, that's where your money's going, and that's why it doesn't cost you anything to publish up front, because you're paying over the long term. And if you do the math around this, I actually had a figure written down. So I want to do some quick math for you here too, and this is what I want to talk about in this other video. But if you're making 80 cents per book sale and you sell 20,000 books per year, that brings you up to $16,000 in earnings, right? Per year, which is not bad. It's definitely good. And if you are selling that book over 60 years, and let's just assume you sell the same amount of books every year for the sake of this example, which I know, that's not really accurate, but let's just look at that as an example, right? Because that's possible. You could, if you're doing super well, you could earn over 60 years, $960,000. And so that's great, right? But if you are indie published and you are earning $4.50 per book because you're not having to pay everyone else in the publishing house 33% of your earnings over 60 years, and you sell 20,000 books a year, you're making $90,000 a year. And then if you sell the same amount of books over 60 years, not even that much, you could literally do any figures around this and you'll still be making so much more than you would be with a traditional publisher. But let's say you sell the same amount of books over 60 years and you earn the same amount every year, you are going to earn over 60 years $5,400,000 from your books. And so that is a significant difference in royalties that your publisher and everyone who's getting paid through the publisher is earning off of your books over your book's entire lifetime versus you. And they are profiting so much more, millions of dollars more, and getting paid millions of dollars more than you are for working on your book for 3 months of that book's entire lifetime, right? Just to put it in perspective for you. So yes, myself, like a lot of authors starting out, don't have a huge production budget up front. So it is a benefit to have a publisher behind me who could take a lot of those costs off my hands. But I also recognize that in the long term, I wasn't going to be earning as much as I could have been doing it myself. And so me having the momentum up front to get 10 books out quickly, to build and establish my brand, to establish that I can write in multiple genres, is going to set me up to be able to self-publish books moving forward and earn more off of them that will allow me to keep publishing books. And that was something I got really strategic about, because I looked at my circumstances for where I was at and I acknowledged what I could and couldn't do, but I also acknowledged where I wanted to be and how I wanted to be making decisions 5 years from that point. And I knew that me making that upfront investment into my book would pay off so much more in the long term over the 60 years that my book would be available. And when you have 10 books that are selling over 60 years each, yeah, you're set up to kind of make, the sky is the limit with your book sales. That was just an example. You might make less and you might make more, but you're still going to make so much more than if you were traditionally published. Anyway, I'm going off track. All right, so that was kind of the specifics around the strategy pieces. How did I have the support behind me? How did I have the strategy behind me with the outsourcing? Now, when I did my indie books, I still outsourced editors and cover designers for 2 reasons. The first one being that I'm not qualified. I don't have the skills, and I want my books to be quality so that they still sell in 5, 10, 15 years because people haven't picked it up, decided it's crap, and never picked up a book from me again. I still invest in people who help me make my book as best as it can be with my indie books, and I still make that upfront investment. And the second reason is that it takes it off my hands. At the end of the day, I still don't have time to be doing editing and cover design, to be learning how to do that by myself. And so it really does benefit me to outsource it off to someone. And so these are the 2 things that I highly recommend that you always outsource from the very beginning, editing and cover design. If you need to, you can also outsource formatting and some marketing. It's not essential. It's not like you could easily learn those skill sets, and there's no real reason why you should have to outsource those things to someone else other than you just not wanting to do it. But also don't make it a bad thing if you don't want to do it. So at this point of where I'm at with my books, I now also have a social media manager, which I didn't have in the beginning and I couldn't justify in the beginning. But I've gotten to a point where to keep the engagement piece going, because I don't have time to do it myself, it's really helpful to have someone who can take that off my hands for me to keep the book sales going. So I do have that as well at this point. They're my first like kind of ongoing team member that I have. And it's just proof that you don't have to have lots and lots of support in the beginning. You can work up to it, but I still challenge you to make smart investments in the beginning and to look at how you're going to be able to get that support behind you. Okay, now the other piece of support that I want to talk about is like the literal support of having someone in your corner or having someone who can teach you stuff. So what was really beneficial for me in the beginning was learning how to market stuff so I could do the marketing and I could actually sell the books, and I didn't have to rely on anyone else to do that for me, because I didn't want to have it as a crutch where I had to pay someone every time. I didn't want to have to pay a publicist or a marketing person to sell my books because I couldn't do it without them, because that was not sustainable. It wasn't a good business decision for me in the beginning, where if I, for whatever reason, I wasn't able to pay them, I would be screwed. I wouldn't be able to market my books. I wouldn't be able to sell them. So I thought it was way worth my time to learn how to do it myself in the beginning so that I could do it effectively. And I also really got frustrated in the beginning. There was this period of time before I got signed again with my second publisher where I was incredibly frustrated. I was stuck. I was trying to test out social media marketing tactics. I was trying to figure out what I was doing with it. I was trying to figure out how to make it work better, and I just couldn't figure it out. And I felt like I was never going to get to where I wanted to be with my author goals. I felt they were so out of reach. Back then, my goals were like get published, sell a certain amount of books. I wanted to be in Writer's Digest. I wanted to become a best-selling author. I wanted to do lots of things that I've now done, but felt so out of reach for me at that point. And that was only 5 years ago. And I just remember feeling like I needed a mentor. I needed someone who could guide me. I needed someone who could teach me. And I didn't have the money lying around to hire a business coach. I just didn't have that at that time. And I wasn't in a place where I could justify that expense, where I could where I felt good about investing in them. So I stayed stuck for a really long time. I stayed stuck for 2 years, and I just decided I'm going to keep trying to figure it out on my own. I'm going to keep DIYing. And at the end of 2 years, I was still in the exact same place. I still was really struggling, taking the slow path, only figuring out a few things every 6 months. I was just really stuck in my tracks. And I got to a point where I went, this is crap. I cannot keep going on like this. I really need to be able to figure this out so I can get results, so I can start making money, because I can't just keep going at this pace. So I decided that I was gonna take the leap and I was gonna hire a business coach, and I spent $3,000, and it was huge. It was a huge investment for me at the time. It scared the crap out of me. I had to do it on a payment plan. I couldn't, but I really, really wanted to get results. So I hired them and I made my investment back in 2 months. It was crazy. I just learned so much from that. It was so good to have someone believe in me, because at that point I'd been second guessing everything I'd been doing. I had been working strategies, and when I wasn't seeing results very quickly, I would kind of go, should I change it? Should I do something else? I was like really just unsure of everything I was doing. And something that was so validating was having a coach come to me and say, you're doing that right. Like, you don't need to change anything. You're doing it great. You just need to keep working at it. And that gave me the confidence to just keep going with it rather than pivoting all the time, which I was doing a lot, and it was why I wasn't getting a lot of results. And so I know some people have opinions about business coaches or just coaches in general, but having someone in your corner to validate what you're doing and to hold you accountable and to guide you through the mindset stuff coming up and the strategy that you might be missing is so freaking valuable, even if you just do it once for a little bit of time. Now, I do also believe that if I could teach you all the things about publishing and marketing and writing and business in a single hour masterclass that was only $49, you bet your butt I would do that. But that is just not a possible thing. And it's also like a case where you're not going to have all the challenges and navigate all the shifts and have all the breakthroughs in your first 6 months or year of being in authorship and being published. That is just not a thing. It is an ongoing thing. There's always going to be things coming up. I mean, that should be obvious from the fact that we are doing these online YouTube videos and you guys are having to watch multiple videos to get multiple shifts and to have multiple breakthroughs and to solve multiple problems, right? Because if we were doing it all in one, you'd be so overwhelmed. We'd be there for 10 hours. Like, it just wouldn't be a happening thing. And so, like, I think it's just important to see that being with a business coach or having any kind of support in your corner, like taking a course, being in a group program, being in a membership, I'm going to talk about that in a minute, it's just like such a game changer because they can speed up the timeline of how you learn these things, how you implement these things, and you can get results very quickly rather than having to jump from video to video and piece it all together yourself and second doubt yourself along the way and sabotage your strategy and pivot when it's not working and like do all the stuff that happens when you don't have someone to just be there and go, you're doing it right. This is how you can improve it. This is what I see you doing well, right? It's so kind And I want to be completely honest. In 2020, I spent $10,000 just investing in various courses and programs and coaches at kind of like, I want to call it a mid-ticket level. Like, it was definitely in the $1,000 range every time, but like that's what felt mid-ticket level for me, because in the actual coaching industry, a high-ticket coach is like $10,000 plus. So that felt very low ticket to me. And I was doing that and I was getting great results and I was like really skyrocketing my process and moving very quickly through the things that I'd been struggling with. And then I hit a point where I couldn't keep just taking classes and courses. I realized that my missing piece wasn't knowledge. I had all the strategies in place, I had all the systems in place, and I was still stuck. And that's when I realized that it was a mindset and implementation thing going on, and that the support I needed at that point was high ticket support. It was personalized coaching support. It was 6 months of deep dive work with a coach that I was missing. And so I made the leap and I invested $10,000 into a business coach. And I made that investment back the next year. It took me a little bit longer than I wanted to, but I still made it back and I went on to have my most profitable year yet. I tripled my income from previous years. So that is just proof that when you take the leap from the right place and you know that you need a certain type of support, it's not something where they're convincing you to buy or you feel like you'll never succeed without that piece. It's like, you know where you need the help and you desire to have the support and you make the investment from the right place and the money shows up. That is where it's going to change your life, where you're going to get great results, where you're going to be able to really shift your results, right? I just think that that is really valuable, and I just wanted to be really transparent in the fact that I have invested, combined, like the business coach in the previous year of just investing, at least $20,000 into various coaches and stuff at this point. So I know what I'm talking about when I say to invest, and I definitely walk my talk with this. And that's not even counting the investments I make into my books and hiring editors. Like, that's a whole other investment bracket that we're looking at. So I've definitely spent the money and I'm definitely seeing the results. It's how I've been able to do it so quickly. So I just wanted to like kind of have a really honest conversation about this and talk about the different ways that you can have support in your life. I've been there. I've been broke. I've lived on $40 a week off of freelancing, not making a whole lot. I've been in struggle city for 2 years in my business, not getting anywhere and not really having the cash flow to make it work. When you make the investments from the right place because you believe with full certainty that your books will be successful, that they will sell, that it will pay off, that you're going to hit the 20,000 sales, that you're going to get to the $1 million price point with your books over time, over that 60-year period, because you have the big picture vision and you have the strategies and the processes in place to make it happen. That's where the magic happens, and that is why I'm already so on track to make that happen, because I'm about to have 10 books out and I'm only 6 years in, and I have all the strategies, all the systems in place to get me there very, very quickly. And so that is basically what I wanted to go over. And the final thing I want to leave you with, because I know that when a lot of authors are starting out, they hear all this and they go, that's excellent, and I totally get it, and one day I am going to be ready to invest in a coach, but right now I cannot do that. I get it because I've been there. Here's what I recommend. Join a membership, okay? I swear, a membership is so good because they are kind of like a really easy introductory starting point for you to have community, for you to have that mentorship, to have that guidance, that knowledge, and that accountability that's going to get you unstuck. Like, if someone had come to me 5 years ago when I was in my room trying to figure out the social media, like really struggling, feeling like I was never going to get there, needing that low ticket cost mentor to help me, I wish someone had come to me and said, join a membership, and had told me how freaking good it was going to be and how that alone was going to solve all the problems I was having at that point. that is what I highly recommend. And it's also why I created my membership. I do have one that my authors love. I have authors that have been in there for over 2 years because they just keep getting so much value in there. But basically, I designed it to be that starting out place that I wish I'd had in the beginning. And what that does is it gives you weekly coaching. It's group coaching, so it's not personalized, but like I tend to be very personalized with my clients anyway. So you get on a group call and I really take the time to answer your questions and give you the guidance you need. It also has a framework, a structure to it. So we're not just like getting on random calls to talk every week. I'm actually moving you through a proven system that has helped my clients to achieve their goals so quickly. Like I had clients who before they joined this membership were taking a year to write their book or were really struggling to publish, and then they're able to do all these things in 6 months because they're working through this framework quickly. So we do the calls with the structure. You get feedback on like content, like basically anything. So if you have posts, if you have blurbs, if you have query letters that you want feedback on, I give you feedback on all of that. We also do storyteller sessions. These are intensive sessions that are hugely valuable. I charge $550 separately for these, and you get them in the membership for free, but they're limited. Where if like there's like 15 members in there, there's only 3 available every month. So you have to be first in to book them, and they usually book out. But these are really helpful, and I wanted them to be in that introductory space because that's where a lot of authors are at. They're trying to write their first book, they're struggling. I wanted them to have access to something that would help them write their books. So in there is storyteller sessions that help you to get clear on your book and find direction and actually finish it. So that's included. And you also get trainings. So we do quarterly trainings. We used to do monthly trainings and people were struggling to keep up with the monthly trainings. It was too much. So we went to quarterly, and that's worked very well for 2 years. So every quarter you get some kind of training from me based on what you're currently needing help with. We do a vote in the group every month, and whatever the most common vote is, I do a training on that. And if I don't know it, I bring in a guest expert. So more recently, we just did a training on how to create an audiobook, and I had a guest expert come in and teach audiobooks because I haven't actually done that for myself yet. And we have like over 24 trainings already in there on all different authorship topics, everything from writing to publishing to marketing. It just really gives you a place to dip your toes in and really look at everything and look at all the different aspects of authorship and really get familiar with how you can start to go full time in it. So I'm actually going to link that down below for anyone who's interested, because I know that's a really good starting point for a lot of people who might be needing that accountability support aspect. I would never expect anyone who has just discovered me or is still trying to get off their feet in authorship to invest high ticket with me in a one-on-one coaching package. Like, that is crazy. I would never expect that. Although it does happen from time to time, it's just like really unlikely, so I'd never pitch that. But the membership is a really great starting point, and it also helps you get a feel for my coaching style to see if we are even a good fit to work together. You also get a 7-day free trial, so you really have nothing to lose by coming in and testing it out. So I'm going to link that down below if you're interested, and I hope that everything else I talked about in this video has been insightful and helpful for you to understand just like all the different options available to get some support behind you, and how you can kind of get strategic with how you might approach authorship for yourself. So whether that means that you want to actively pursue a traditional publisher for a particular book or series just to kind of get you established, or maybe you want to hire and outsource particular people and you're going to intentionally save up a budget for that, or you're going to start automating some stuff, or you're going to maybe hire that coach at some point, whatever it is, definitely look at your options and get comfortable getting help behind you, because I promise you that is going to be the fastest, easiest way for you to grow and actually treat your writing like a business. That is all from me today. I hope this video was helpful. Check out all the stuff in the description for all the links and resources around what I do, and some more free stuff is in there as well. And I will see you guys in the next video. Okay.